gone. Okay. Maybe we can start from this slide because agenda isn't very useful for you. Okay, and in general, what is NPM? NPM may be someone from you worked with Java or PHP, and in comparison with Java and NPM for Node.js, it's Maven or Composer for PHP. But maybe the good question, what is Node.js? Maybe someone heard about it first time, and Node.js it's server language for in JavaScript. So now I believe you learn browser JavaScript for client side, but there is some type of server. It's JavaScript on server. And for easy downloading and installing packages, some useful libraries without some downloaded each packages, you need Node Package Manager. Okay, and in general, NPM it's a big cloud server, and using some common using installing and some common command, you can download these packages on your computer and using it. Yeah, and update version and manage this updating and dependencies, and it makes managing easier for you as developer. Okay, on slide you can see that there is main site NPM, and on this site, one moment, maybe I can I'll show you the site. Yeah, on this site NPM.js, you can see what is it, something like about this, and you can see all packages, all packages and modules. And if you don't know some name of packages, you can go to this site and type something in search and try to understand what is it and find some useful. Okay, it's about this slides, and move on. How to install Node.js for using NPM on your computer? You need to install Node.js. In this case, when you install Node.js on your computer, you get all NPM with Node.js. For downloading, you only need go to main Node.js. There is link in my presentation, and you can choose as simple for Windows, and it's easier via sudo for Linux, and you can download what do you need. Yep. I should mention about version, because there is, for example, when you go to the site, you can see recommends, and latest version. Recommended stable version, and the most users should use it. But if you know that there is some features, that you need, and it isn't in current version, you need to update this version, you go to and download the latest version. But in this case, it isn't stable version, and you need to think about it. But in general, it's there isn't some breaking changes in some latest version. Okay, installing it is very simple. After downloading, you need to reload your command line, and you can be sure that Node.js is installed on your computer with command Node version. Also, there is another approach how to install Node.js is via Node version manager. It's difficult, more difficult on Windows. You need to install it with command, but for some simple using, you don't need it. But in general, it can be useful for you if you need, for example, there are two projects, and all projects, one project have one version with Node.js like 10, yeah, because it's some old project, but you need to switch between version. In this case, it can be useful for you NPM. Yep. Okay. Let's move on. Maybe before I explain what is package.json, I will show how we get this NPM. You can go to some empty folder, yep, and open command line. It can be any bash or your window inbuilt. I used by git bash because it's easier for window. And in this case, for create new Node package manager project, you need to, after installing Node.js, type npm init, yeah, and maybe I can do like this. No, it didn't help. After that, you will have some dialog, and this if you don't type anything, there is some by default values. For example, for my case, it's like name of my folder in this typed selection, and after that we will see it in package.json. Version can be any. Description also. Entry points. Entry points, it's file what will be invoked by default when you try to use NPM with running your application. Test command, it's for using testing. For example, in your when you create some application, yeah, this application is awesome, but you need to be sure that its quality is good, and you write test, unit test, or some another types. Maybe you heard about it before. And in this case, we should test command, git repository, for example. You can bind on this step, but you can do it later. Yep. Keywords, it isn't very common. Author, it's about you. By default, it will be you. License, and after that, you will see some short description. Yep, with all data that you have, and some question for you. Is it talk? Yes, everything is okay. And after that, you will see package.json file in your folder. Let's open. Yeah, and here all data that you entered before via sender. It's good approach to don't make this file by hand, but using only command, because it helps you not to do a lot of mistakes. Okay, let's move on. And as for files, here we can see that it's the same our file. Also, if you don't want to press enter every time and set all data by default, you can use npm init -y. And okay, it's the main file for your Node application. Okay, and let's move on. And in short here, what is package.json there is? First of all, it's some documentation what packages your project depends on. In short case, when we will install some dependencies, you understand what it means. Also, you can not only have some dependencies, but set up some version, yeah, because, for example, somebody creates some library, for example, React, yep, with some version 1. But after some time, it's released new version, but you want to use all old. And in this case, you can specify which specific version do you want to use. And also it helps not duplicate data. For example, you want to share your project with your collaborations, and you don't need to send all dependencies. Yep, all not models files folder. I will show you how this folder will create automatically. Okay, and in this case, NPM PACKAGE.JSON helps you. Okay, and here we can see how I see that I am the same folder with our package.json, and now we can add some dependencies. There are several types of dependencies. It's safe. For example, if you install some dependencies, you need type APM install or only name of your dependencies. Socket.io, it's some library for real-time integration between application. It isn't very. And if you type safe, it means that for using your application, you need this library in any case. Yep. If you type safe dev, it means that it should be used only for dev cases. For example, for testing, it's useful only when you create your application and try to do something with it. You need to check code quality only when you're developing. When you want to share this application, your site with users, you don't need to check some tests. Yep, because it doesn't mean anything for your users. That's why in this case we should use safe dev. As for optional, it can be used or not. It isn't very common, very meaningful for your case. I press enter, and now it tried to achieve. Yeah, and in this case, in my folder, automatically creates a new folder, not models. It means that this command go to cloud, NPM cloud, and get all data for this library and save in your node models. Okay, and why we can see here more than one folder? Because one package has dependencies with from other packages. For example, in Socket.io, use in other libraries, and for this library works good, you need these dependencies too. That's why there are a lot of folders here. Yep, and also we can see package log. And let's move on and speak about it more. And also I would like to show you, one moment, that here automatically added dependencies. If you press dev dependencies, yep, we see here dependencies, dev dependencies. Okay, let me. What difference between safe dev optional? I believe I answered for your question. Yep. Font bigger. Yep, it can be. Sorry, maybe I can show it. I believe should be. It's about, yep, but I'm not sure about them there. I'm not sure that, yep, it works also. It's great. Now it's OK. And as for question about safe, dev safe and safe optional, it's clear now. Okay, okay, thank you. Let's move on. It's a little bit about versions. For example, let's move to package. When you create, also your project can be packages too, and I will speak about it later. And when you create your packages, you add some version. For example, you can see here that socket, our library, have version 2, and there is some strange mark here. It means that when we are going to install our dependencies, we can use any version that's higher than this. That it means that this command gets the latest version, for example, for 2 or 3, but it should be not late than 1.0.0. And in this case, also this explain how it should be done. For example, if you create your packages, or if you want to get some new packages, you can't understand which version you should. For example, if you use this and then you will shoot this, it means that there isn't some very major changes between 1 and this with 1 in the end, because it's some very little changes. Yep. If we change second, yep, it means that there is changes, and these changes important. And sometimes as rule, it's some fixed bugs. For example, because there are a lot of bugs, but it's difficult to test all library before release, and during the after release, author can change something, and then they don't want to create a very major version, because it's only fixes. That's why they change only this second. Okay, it's about version. What about package.JSON? Let's move on to our project. Maybe I will change. No. Open folder. All folder. No. Okay, let's open one file. It will be easier for me. What about log package file? We have a lot of lines, but in this case, we change only 1 or 2 lines in package.JSON. Yep. Don't save and open this folder again. We add only 1 dependencies, but there are a lot of lines here. What does it mean? As I said before, there is not package, not models, and in this not models, there are a lot of dependencies, and these dependencies we can see here. So it's not only dependencies of our socket, but of all other. For example, if in the future you change version here, a package log file helps you to understand how this version will be changed. Yeah, for example, if you change socket.io and another version, use another version of one of this library, yep, we see these changes later. So what is package log file in general? It's some map for you how to understand dependencies step by step. Yep. According to this file, you can see how your project is developing. For example, from start, yep, you can go here and see later. And in general, it's very big, but very small by bytes, because it's only JSON file. And in general, you will not use this file. Yeah, sometimes it helps you understand why something, for example, breaks in your application. For example, if there are two libraries, two dependencies in your application, and they want to use one library but with different version. Yep, and one library override another, and you can't understand why it doesn't work. And in this case, package log can help you. Okay. Yep. Let's move on. It's about package log. What about managed dependencies? You can go try updates. I'm not sure that because we have small dependencies here. This command, no, we don't have, because it can helps you to understand maybe some of your packages have a new version and you can update it. In this case, you can check it with npm update. Also, we can use npm list and understand all list of dependencies. For example, you can see this Socket.O dependency of Express, and Express it's not framework, and see how tree of dependencies. Yeah. If you understand, for example, this library won't be used in your application more, you can try to remove. Yep, in this case you can see, and also you don't have not models now, and in package.json we don't have any dependencies. In this case, you need to do it via command line, because if you delete only in package.json, yep, you don't delete dependencies in not models. That's why it's a good case to do it only in command line. And what about npm prune? I believe you don't have. When you use a lot of libraries, some of libraries can be harmful for your application. Yeah, some bad approach in security or not maintainable more. In this case, you can check it with npm prune. Okay, let's move on. Very useful, a very simple approach. For example, you don't want to type a lot in your command line. You want to use some short, short command. In this case, you go to your, we can see that there is script. And you can add by hand, for example, the most common command, it's start. If you want to use and you can type anything, a lot of comments, and it's for easier used long command. And the rest, for example, for start application, is this application working, I don't know if you works already with Webpack, but it's some watch mode. For example, if something changed in your application, this watch mode detected automatically these changes and reload your application without type something. Lints checks, and I believe in the future, when you will work with these libraries, you know about these comments. Yep. For example, when you, but in our case, it doesn't work because we don't have, but we can try to start. For example, when we add it to package.json and save and go to our folder, we can type start. Yep, it doesn't work because not. Yes, it's running, but we don't have any src folder. That's why it's only on this case. Okay, it's about scripts, about common. It's command click command. There are a lot of commands, and I'm not. I don't want to speak about everything, because if you need, you go to Google and find it. We already meet npm install if you need to install some packages to your application. Save date, save and save optional. npm init. It's a init empty application for create package.json. npm set key value when you need to change some config for you. When you it isn't obligatory for you, but if you want to work like author of packages, you need to add config in your application. I will show it later. And for changes application, we use npm set. npm config list. Let's show you. In this case, we see all configs for npm. I have registry, scope, and through it isn't very useful, and it shows you the most common config for npm. Okay, for npm list you can see all. We don't have any dependencies, but we see it here. It's about list. Updates about some new version of packages. npm updates when you need to update some version of your dependencies. For uninstall, yep, it's like remove for you. Yep, you can use remove, you can use uninstall packages. npm for gets some vulnerables in your application. npm help, it's some help command for getting the most common npm. What about config? If you don't work with npm before, you need, but you can work with npm without config. But if you use some security dependencies, it should be set for you. What can we config with npm? We can add author name. It's one moment. npm config. One moment. Yep. npm config set. Yep. Yeah, I need to set name. Yep, config. Yeah, it's change your, also you can change your email, your URL, and this data will be, you can see, only you can see this data when you don't push something packages to an npm. If you want to share your packages with someone else, this data will be added to your packages. And when you want to see that which configs you have, you can see it here. Okay, let's move on. Also, you can create your custom packages. In this case, you can create this folder and type npm and pushed it to via these commands. It's I am not sure that it will be very common, because you need to create good library for publishing, and for publishing packages you need to add new user and npm publish after that, and after that you go to npm site and can see your and other can see your files too. What about npm ignore and git ignore? I believe you know what is git ignore, and in this case npm it's the same file only for npm. In this case, if you add something to npm ignore, it will be ignore for npm. That's all. Okay, this is we can see that we can find our, in this case with npm search by name, you can try to find by line packages that you need. Okay, new publish, and it's about the package publish and new version. In this case you can update by hand your application. Okay, and the last topic, it's about Yarn. Yarn in it's some alternative of npm. It was created a little bit later than npm, and in the start of when Yarn was shown, there were some reasons why we should use Yarn. Several years ago, Yarn had more fast installs, offline supports, log file. It was useful, and also other syntax is more simple. But now, in general, for example, what about all points? Now it isn't applicable, because npm now is working with it, and now npm also have fast installing, offline supports, and other. That's why Yarn is using on some projects. And for example, if you try to install, for example, React with some React Create app, some command, it's a product of Facebook. That's why all of Facebook products will be installed with Yarn by default, because Facebook tried to push their products. And but in my case, it's easier to use npm. It's a good case because npm is bigger community. That's why if you don't have any specific requirements from customer or team, or you go to project and see that there is already Yarn here, you should use npm. But it's my personal opinion, maybe. Okay. And here you can ask some question if you have something, maybe some details about this topic. You can type something in chat or ask with voice. Okay. Okay, in this case, I believe there isn't any question here. So have a nice evening. Thank you for your time. If you have any question, you can type in this chat and I will answer later. Let's stop recording.